The U.S. Pentagon was recently exposed for having committed another atrocity, which is no shock, killing at least 10 civilians, including 7 children. Probably the most notable, a man by the name of Zamari Ahmadi. He was a U.S. aid worker for a nonprofit organization. He was also looking to migrate to the U.S. as well. So he was a man who was loading jugs of water into his Toyota Corolla until he unfortunately met his end by a machine of death, which you may know to be known as a drone. Now, this specific drone strike happened because of previous events that occurred that I will now go over, not in great detail, but so the bombing outside of the Kabul airport, which killed the 13 American soldiers as well as over 100 Afghan civilians, including members of the Taliban themselves. That happened, and everybody was, understandably upset. 13 American service people just needlessly lost their lives. It was chaos, it was carnage, and tensions were high. Now, President Biden, in typical American war criminal fashion, puffed his chest out, flexed his muscles, and said, "We will retaliate. We will get ISIS-K. We will hunt you down." That's not what happened. Instead, the people that got hunted down were people that were totally undeserving, unaware, and unsuspected that they would meet their end so soon and so needlessly. Now, after the drone strike first occurred, immediately what you received from the Pentagon was, "We did it. We did it. We got two, I believe they said, two suspected terrorists, and they were certain." General Mark Milley actually referred to it as a righteous strike. You had representatives and officials from the Pentagon that would come out and give words that this strike was undoubtedly and unquestionably, directed at the correct targets, and that it was absolutely successful. That was what you got from the Pentagon. And our national media took this nonsense and didn't question it a little bit. Not even a smidget. Not at all. They took it and they put it out there as they received it from the Pentagon. Now, we have people on the ground in Afghanistan, and as things developed, we learned that this was not the truth. No, they didn't hit terrorists. In fact, they caused another atrocity. And I thought that this was a perfect encapsulation of the 20-year reign of terror that the U.S. has imposed on the people of Afghanistan for 20 long years. Now, this is a very sad and unfortunate, but also a perfect end to this story, because, and I say perfect not to try to sully on the lives that were lost for no good reason. I say that because for 20 years we've been lied to, we've been led astray, we've been given every reason in the book why we should remain in Afghanistan. And we knew it was lies. We knew that there were ulterior motives going on, and certain people and certain entities were benefiting from our occupation of Afghanistan. We knew all of this. But for this to happen at the end, it really shows you. So for 20 years, I mean, these sorts of situations, which Mr. Ahmadi and his children unfortunately had to experience, were happening over the course of 20 years. They bombed the shit out of Afghanistan for 20 years, destroyed the country, which some even hesitate to refer to it as a country now. We left. The government that we had, quote unquote, propped up collapsed immediately. We failed to destroy the Taliban, which is one of the reasons why they said that we were there in the first place. Another lie, to stop the Taliban, to save the women. You know the rest of it. I mean, just a literal embarrassment for the quote unquote strongest country in the world, the richest nation in the world. An embarrassment. An embarrassment. It's shameful and it's truly awful what kind of fears, pain, anguish that they have imposed on that population. Now, the media has recently come out and accepted the fact that it was a fail, and of course they'll, run the story. But they're only doing this because of the huge spotlight that's on Afghanistan at the moment. Really, due to the Kabul suicide bombing and the fact that they've propagated the living hell out of the American population, and all eyes are on Afghanistan. I mean, we were there for 20 years. You don't think things like this happened over the course of those 2 long decades? No, they've occurred often, if not every so often over the course of these 20 years. You just didn't hear about it because there was no big spectacle. But there is now, so you are hearing about it. This is nothing new. No, it's not. This is the American imperialist hegemony once again showing us its insane vileness, corruptness, and outright lack of morals and understanding.